Welcome, everyone. Steve Wyss here, joined by Kevin Harper for the latest All Sports Betting Podcast, Cricket World Cup T20 preview. And we're on to the second match on Tuesday. It's going to be Tuesday, the 18th of October, from Geelong, Sri Lanka against the UAE. So we'll start off with venue conditions. Very, very similar to the first game in Geelong. This is a little bit later in the evening. It's going to be a 7 p.m. local time kickoff. But it's going to be a nice day there. The temperatures are going to be good. And there's going to be no rain interfering. So that is not a problem for this match, is it, Kev? Which is, I guess, something that we're going to have to consider in the forthcoming weeks, because there is a bit of rain around Australia. But so far, not really had that much of an effect. There was a small delay on Monday, but apart from that, that's all I can think of.
Yeah, exactly. The forecast, I mean, funnily enough, looking at the forecast there for Thursday, it was terrible, wasn't it? And it's got an awful lot better. Not great for Hobart on Friday, but hopefully it clears up a little bit by then, because obviously we've got some great bets. But yeah, no need to worry on Tuesday. We should be perfectly good. That temperature drops off a bit though, so dew might be an issue.
Very true. That is very true. And if the dew comes in, you want to be batting second, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it slips on the ball when you're bowling and all sorts of things like that. So let's start off with Sri Lanka then, because they suffered a shock defeat against Namibia. Well, I mean, it wasn't a huge shock to you, I suppose, was it, Kev? But I guess in terms of the bookmakers, they were 1-10 favourites, I think, for that game. If they lose this, they're in massive trouble, aren't they? So are you expecting a big response from Sri Lanka here?
I am, yeah. I think there was a bit of an overreaction to their first defeat. Yeah, obviously they didn't want to lose to Namibia, did they? But at the same time, I don't think they were quite as bad as people are making them out to be. And actually, I think Namibia deserve an awful lot of credit, because they played a really good game of cricket. As I said in other podcasts, that was all about them having the freedom to play. And Sri Lanka maybe not, but also one or two Sri Lankans will have been slightly underdone going into that match. So they'll be better for the hit out. I can't believe that Sri Lanka are going to pick outfielders in the same way that they picked them out in that first game. So, no, I'm not writing Sri Lanka off yet. And hopefully Sri Lanka win this. I expect them to win this. I expect them to do a bit of a job here, actually. And if they do and they qualify, it'll all work out well in the end for us from an outright point of view, won't it? So, all good.
It certainly will. As a reminder, we are on Sri Lanka outright. I think they have moved to a 33-1 shot now after losing the first game. But it's a funny thing. If they do qualify now and finish second, they're probably in the better group. So, maybe you could get on again. For those who like a bit of a value outright, maybe they were just looking at the draw and thinking, you know what, we might just be canny in that first game. I don't think they would have, but I'd like to think that way. But UAE then, they came very close to winning. We actually backed them in the first game against the Netherlands, and I reckon they were one drop catch at a crucial stage from winning that game. And I mean, they were disappointed, weren't they, not to have got the victory there, but fundamentally, I think we saw enough deficiencies, certainly with the probably batting depth. Bowling at times was all right, but I mean, they are a big underdog here for a reason.
Yeah, they are, and I don't think that they're going to come close in this game. I think what we saw in that first game, Steve, is the difference between bilateral series and tournament cricket. In a tournament, if you make a complete cock-up in the first game of a series, in a bilateral series, if you make a complete cock-up in the first game of it, you can address that, see where you went wrong, and you've got the same opponent to put it better next time. It's not the case in the tournament, is it? If you make a complete cock-up against one team, you face a completely different one in the second one, and you still got to work out all the same problems that you've had before. And I think that's the problem that UAE are going to have here. The Dutch exposed too much of the UAE's problems, and given that both games were at the same ground, if the Sri Lanka coach Chris Silverwood wasn't watching that second game, he's a complete idiot, because he's obviously got to play both teams in their last two games. So he'll have seen the problems. And what were the problems? Well, initially the problems were that they couldn't lay bat on ball whenever the ball was short, could they? They were swinging at absolutely everything. They connected with 2 or 3 that flew for 6, but so many didn't. And then at the back end of the innings, because they were trying to catch up from where they'd messed up in the first sort of 10, 12, 15 overs, everything that they then finally managed to lay a bat on went straight up in the air and found a fielder. So that in itself was a problem. I did actually think that the UAE bowled really, really well. against the Dutch, and I think that that's something that they can build on. They didn't have anywhere near enough runs, did they? If they had 140 runs on the board, they won that game 10 times out of 10. So they'll be asking their batsmen, look, just give us a few more runs. You don't even have to give us 200, which it seemed like they were trying to hit to. Just 140, 150 will give us a chance, and that bowling attack can come into play. But on these pitches, clearly they're not suited to them with the bat, are they? There was too many batsmen that had low hands, and you don't want that.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed with their batting, apart from the top scorer who were on for the tournament outright. Is it Mohamed Washim or someone like that? And I'd be honest, I think they're a candidate to get bowled out for less than 100 here, to be brutally honest, whether they bat first or bat second. But in terms of match bets then, is this a time to go big on Sri Lanka, 1 to 10? For those, is this a banker? I mean, can you add them to like accumulators on the day, whatever, parlays, things like that?
Yeah, I would say so, Steve. I think, Sri Lanka, any rust or any sort of overlooking Namibia or anything like that, they've had a rude awakening now, haven't they? So they'll take this seriously. Let's not forget, 6 weeks ago, this lot, Sri Lanka, were the Asia Cup champions. Now, I know they were in different conditions to what they face here, but I don't think they lost to Namibia because of the conditions. I think they lost to Namibia because they played some stupid shots. And one or two bowlers needed a gallop, to use a racing term. They've had the gallop. They won't play those same stupid shots here. So, yeah, I think they're really good things.
Okay, so let's move on to your first bet for the game. And it's an interesting market you're taking here. Under 25.4 fours at 5 to 6. And this is at Betfair Sportsbook, I do believe, Kev.
It is, yeah.
Not sure if many other bookmakers are offering this fours line or not. Take us through the bet. Take us through the rules of the bet as well, because it is kind of quite specific.
Yeah, let's do the rules first then. 4 in this situation is any 4 that comes off the bat. So if an umpire signals 4 leg byes, well, someone's going to have to absolutely boot the fucking thing to get it to the boundary.
There was one today, actually, in a match. And I was like, how on earth are those leg byes? Because it didn't seem possible, did it?
on this outfield in particular, someone's going to have to give it a Ronaldo-like crack to get it to the boundary for a leg bye. But anyway, it has to be off the bat or the gloves. So any 4 that's attributed to the batter are the only 4s that count here. 6s don't count. You're only looking at 4s. If every ball goes over the ropes, happy days. And that's partly one of the reasons why I like the bet, Steve, to be quite honest. Ground dimensions. We've mentioned it all through the podcast that we've done regarding this group. This is a rugby ground or an AFL ground or whichever sports it is that they play out there. And we saw that on Sunday, didn't we? The square boundaries here are very, very short. Mishits will go for 6. And the straight boundaries are very, very, very long. And mishits definitely won't go for 6 on those straight boundaries. So, it's interesting that there were quite a few 6s in comparison to how many runs were scored, but there weren't many 4s. In both matches on Sunday, that's the UAE v Namibia game. Sorry, UAE versus Netherlands, Sri Lanka versus Namibia. In both games combined, there were 26 4s. And the line's only half a unit below that for this game alone. Why is it like that? Well, it's like that because Sri Lanka, if they bat first, everyone's expecting them to run up a cricket score, so to speak, which they probably will do. But like I said earlier, I saw enough in that UAE attack that suggests to me it's not necessarily going to get belted out of the park. I mean, the 2 seamers, one of them bowled an absolute crackerjack of a Yorker to get rid of a Netherlands batsman, and the other fella who was on a hat-trick, or would have been on a hat-trick, sorry, had the catch have been taken. I mean, he looked really, really good, Siddiqui. So I'm not convinced that they're going to get absolutely plundered anyway, UAE here. As you mentioned, if UAE bat first and they're skittled, well, Sri Lanka ain't going to have enough runs to put many 4s on the board anyway.
No, if UAE bat first here, that bet is going to easily win. But is there a case for saying that there's more chance of the UAE batting first here? Because I think if they win the toss, they will bat. And maybe Sri Lanka, if they were to win the toss, maybe they would chase in this game. I don't know. That's just how it comes across to me.
Yeah, possibly. There is possibly that option. But ultimately, they've still got to hit 4s on a ground where the square boundaries are, what were they, 60 metres, something like that. So anything that goes up in the air is likely to carry that boundary that's hit properly. It's not like they're going to be able to hit a ball in the air and it's going to definitely bounce because Yeah, generally they've either hit it well, in which case it will clear the rope, or they haven't hit it well, in which case it won't get to the rope, because this outfield was slow as anything, and it slowed up the longer that the day went on. And also, the pitch absolutely died on its backside on Sunday, didn't it? And this is the second game of the two on Tuesday. So if it dies on its backside again here, batsmen are going to have to absolutely smash it. And also, both teams have also had a game on it, Steve. So they'll know not to bowl short now. They'll know to pitch it up, get teams hitting down the ground. It's almost half as long again down the ground, isn't it? So as long as the bowling attacks are clever and canny, I just can't see how 26 fours get hit, because I expect an awful lot of the boundary percentage just to come in sixes.
Under 25.5 fours then. That's the first bet for the game, and that is a 3-unit selection. We're moving into the man of the match market for the first time in this tournament now. You got a 1-unit selection on a Sri Lankan player. Who you go with? And also, how is this actually decided? Who decides who's man of the match?
I think it's a fan vote that decides who the man of the match is.
I'll get on the blower then.
Yeah, well, exactly. if our guy is in the mix and our guy is Dushmantha Chameera, if he's in the mix, then all the devices I've got registering a vote, to be quite honest, Steve. I think that they do have some other sort of influence as well, but I like him because there's two ways of looking at this, isn't there? Sri Lanka bat first, someone scores 60, 70, 80 or something like that, and the chances are that that's caught the eye. However, as I've just mentioned, there's no guarantees that Sri Lanka smash it to all parts anyway. And if they don't bat first, then surely this is going to go to a Sri Lanka bowler, assuming Sri Lanka win the game like we think. Now, which bowlers are most likely to do some damage? Well, let's look back to Sunday. UAE didn't actually look that bad against the spinners. Okay, they didn't hit them very far, but that was just because the pitch was absolutely shocking. And you think where UAE come from, which part of the world they come from, sort of Asian-ish conditions in the Middle East, they'll be perfectly happy playing spin. So yes, Wanindu Hasaranga is a damn good spinner, arguably the best in the world. But is he really going to take sort of 4 for 20 or something like that? I don't see it. Ditto Tichana. So then we come to the seamers. So what do I like about the seamers? Well, if you look at Chameera, he'll open the bowling and he'll bowl at the death. They're the 2 times in the innings that wickets are taken, more often than not. And then if you look at how UAE played the other day, the fella that we're on, Wasim, he looked pretty technically correct, actually. But the other fella who opened the batting with him, he looked like he was batting on hot coals or something. He was all over the gaff. He was absolutely trying to smash everything. You know, he was creating sort of tornado with his bat swing, wasn't he? And it's kind of, that's not going to work. And Chameera, he'll target the stumps with the new ball. That's what he always does. He's a very good new ball bowler. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if he gets rid of him. He got rid of a Namibian opening batsman in the first game. And then if he comes back, you know, yes, he'll be getting cheap wickets. But let's say he takes, I don't know, 3 for 24 or something, and that's enough to be the top bowler, and UAE are bowled out for sort of 85, 90. There isn't going to be enough time for a Sri Lanka batter to really catch the eye. And even if he does catch the eye, the job's been done by the bowlers. So I think there is a chance here that a Sri Lankan bowler will be the man of the match. The Netherlands, Bas de Leader was the man of the match against UAE the other day for exactly the same reason, because he took 3 wickets. And I'll take a chance that Chameera does likewise.
Yeah, let's hope he has a great game. Dushmantha Chameera, a 16 to 1 shot. That's with Coral. You can get him certainly above 10 to 1 with most of the bookmakers. So worth a 1-unit nibble there. We'll quickly move on to the top batsman market. Suggestions here, Kev. Let's start with UAE. Is it going to be the main man again, Mohammed Wasim? Can you look beyond him?
No, you can't. There was no one really that you thought, he looked all right in that opening game, was there? Certainly no one of any sort of.
He looked by far the best batsman, didn't he? Of them?
Yeah, he did. If he survives that new ball spell, you know, he's likely to get himself 25 and 30, and that should be enough. Not getting involved in the market though, Steve, because we're effectively on him already.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably the sort of game it's more dangerous to back him because he's facing higher class bowlers, isn't he, in this game? So more of a chance maybe someone could just fluke something down the order. In terms of the top Sri Lankan batsmen, then, I mean, you can't look beyond the top three because they might be potentially chasing a very, very low score.
Exactly that. We're already on one of them outright. Hopefully he fills his boots. And we go from there. The top three in that market there are the top three in the batting order. So unless they want to send someone from below up who didn't get any runs against Namibia just to get him at the crease. But again, who do you take? You're not going to know. That's only they're going to know that from within, aren't they? If you did want to go down that route and look for a little bit of value, Gunalataka, the fourth guy on that list, he was out first ball, wasn't he? Or very quickly. First ball he was out against Namibia. So maybe he'll go up one just to get him some time at the crease. But again, you're playing with fire there, I think.
You certainly are. Right, well, so that is it for this game. 2 bets to remind you of: under 25.5 fours. It's a 3-unit selection, and Dushmantha Chameera, man of the match, 16-1 there for 1 unit. As a reminder, do follow us on the socials. We've got 4 different Twitter accounts for you to take a look at ASBpod, at KevSat, at Meatman Soccer, and at KevSat Sportsbets. And for those who are watching on YouTube, do hit that like button. It would be much appreciated. And might even be some live Twitter viewers today who have taken a look. So, make sure you're following us if you're not already. And check out Kev's website, kevs@sportsbets.com, for some written previews for this tournament. So final thoughts, Kev?
Yeah, don't forget that this is effectively a knockout game, Steve, this one. So it might get a little bit tense and a little bit edgy. So just be careful of that when you're betting. You might just temper your stakes a little bit.
Excellent. Brilliant. Well, good luck whatever you're taking then. And we'll see you next time for some more previews on Wednesday's fixtures in the T20 Cricket World Cup. Goodbye.